Let's do this. This is the week of, where are we at? We're deep in November. We're deep in November. This is the week of November 20th. Holy crap. Like Thanksgiving is not far away. November 20th. Wow. All right. We got some things moving, some things changing. So we're going to take a look at that. And I'm going to kind of start off with I'll give you a peek at this because I'm already kind of here. You see it, right? You see Scorpio energy. You see a lot of Scorpio. And Scorpio season is coming to a close. And that's because the sun is at 28 degrees. You see it? We also have Sirius there. Sirius is at 28. So these are critical degrees because they're just about to go to 29, but we also have Mars here at 27, 26. So these three, when they're combined together like that, like imagine they're within that same, they work together. It's like when planets are close, they become connected. They almost work as one, as one unit. Okay. So Mars is part of this unit. The sun is part of this unit. And so is Sirius. So food for the troops, food for people during war, humanitarian needs, humanitarian crises going on because of, people who are fighting and just regular Joe Schmo civilians who can't, everything gets shut down. So this looks like possibly, the 29 degrees considered a critical degree. It's where something happens. Normally, we're going to hear about it, right? Mercury being here in Saggy at the beginning of this week, you see it at 15 degrees, and it's Sagittarius, which speaks about travel, but long distance travel because it's Saggy, overseas because it's Saggy, even boats involved in some way. Mercury is the news. Mercury is the news. And as this week moves on, we know that the sun moving 1 degree a day, which means, this video begins on Monday, the 20th. So you've got the sun the next day at 29, and that means by the 22nd, the sun will be in Saggy, and Sagittarius season begins. You follow? And Mars is trailing right behind the sun. Sirius is a slow mover, so that's going to kind of stay there, right? Sirius in Scorpio, food being a big deal, desire. Some of us might have noticed like our sweet tooths have increased because the desire factor is strong in Scorpio, and Venus is at the opposite, and Venus is the sweets. Venus is Taurus. All right. Should I repeat that? Venus is the ruler of Taurus. Taurus is at the opposite of Scorpio energy in your chart. And whenever we talk about one point, it's smart to consider what's at the opposite point because we're feeling both of those energies. You follow? And Sirius is something we put in our mouth. It's food, but it can be just how do you nurture yourself, right? And so sometimes when when they're not feeling good or they need a little pick me up, what do we reach for? Right? Some people, need something to escape. Some people need something just to give them a little pep in their step. Some people literally are just satisfying the sweet tooth, or they get in the kitchen, they start baking. Like there's something about home and home cooking that becomes deeply gratifying, right? Deeply gratifying. Thinking of maybe recipes from back in the day or something mom used to make, because Scorpio goes deep. It's a bond, right? I know in my family growing up, it seemed like the only time, seriously, as chaotic as my perception was, it seems like the only time things were kind of, where people were, I don't know, on the same page was at the dinner table when it was time to eat. It was like, okay, mom's cooking, mom's baking, mom's making something, which to my mom's credit as a child, a young child, before she had to start working, that she was always in the kitchen cooking, always in the kitchen cooking. My mother loved to bake. I remember the long winter cold months growing up in the 70s, which anybody listening, if you grew up in Midwest in the 70s, it was like blizzards after blizzards and like 40 below zero. regular, not wind chill, right? Regular. And so for us here to come in from shoveling or playing in the snow or ice skating or whatever, not that I was ice skating, but some of the people in my family did that. But coming in from the cold and having like, there's been a pot of stock sitting on the stove for 3 days. Holy shit, and then she would make, like, homemade bread from scratch. So, to me, that was something that even to this day there's a connection with that. There's that bond with that. People show love in different ways. Not everybody uses words, not everybody gives a hug, not everybody, you know we do what we can, and for some we got to recognize what they're doing when they're doing it and be like, okay, that's their love language, right? So to me, um, I can at least I think of Sirius and Scorpio, and that's what comes to mind for me, right? Like, how do I feel nurtured, and how was I nurtured, possibly, and how did I see the nurturing when I was small. And I'm talking kind of about the past here because Scorpio is the ruler of Scorpio is Pluto and Mars, right? So we know Mars always takes actions, taking action with the body. And so we see here, if I move this a little bit, you see the degrees. Mars and Sirius are like, and the sun, they're functioning together. Remember, the sun is somebody in charge, right? So this can be commander in chief, somebody who's got a plan, someone where we take the commands from. Mars is the soldier, and Sirius is the food. So it's like there's an effort. There's an effort where it's like, okay, we need to make sure that this is taken care of. We need to get water. We need to get essentials to these people or even to troops, right? Combination factor. Those troops who are the ones who are delivering the food into battle zones, right? Making sure that the transports come in and the ships roll in and whatever. Which ships, Sagittarius, but also Neptune and Navy for sure, right? So this is the beginning of that week. So it starts off kind of intense because it's Scorpio. Remember, it's fixed energy and it's powerful. So it's kind of intense, right? And we know because of the past videos and the talking, we know that Scorpio automatically angles and squares the other two fixed signs, which are Leo and Aquarius, right? We know that that is a constant fix. And so here we are, good news at the end of Scorpio season. And that what that will do is it will relieve that stress and that pressure. And it helps because Saturn already beginning its direct movement. So the stress and the tension and the burden and the restrictions have been eased a little bit. And that helps. That helps the load, right? Saturn, think of Atlas with the world on his back, carrying the world on his back. That is Saturn. And in Pisces, it is going to take on a spiritual overtone. So it's looking to take care and sacrifice, but it does have a spiritual vibration to it. We think of Christ consciousness and we think of, well, what the hell does that mean anyway? Well, what did Christ do? Christ served and sacrificed. Christ saw the unity. And there's a lot of other beautiful, wonderful spiritual leaders. Just consider that my ignorance that I'm using Christ as an example if you have other beliefs, okay? It's not to exclude, but think of Jesus sitting at the table or inviting others that other people considered unworthy. Christ says, these are all my children, right? These are all God's children. We are, regardless of your skin color, regardless of your beliefs, regardless of anything, we all belong together, and there's the unity in that energy. There's the unity. It's interesting because the beginning of the week also starts off with water, with the moon there, right? So that'll be for 72 hours that the moon will be traveling through Pisces. Okay. Now we're going to get over to some of the other things that I have, something a little bit different. Hercules. We have Hercules, our spiritual warrior who's really good with the battle, really good with weapons, really good with his hands, can even make his own weapons, but who's on this journey to learn that when he attacks his battles using weapons, he will lose. And in Mars, he was truly tested because I'm sorry, when he was in Aries, he was truly tested because he wanted to use weapons because that's what Aries is good at. It's good at initiating, at starting stuff, at instigating and having weapons. and it doesn't think. It's very spontaneous. It has zero patience. So Hercules was truly being tested. Hey, can you remember what you learned when you traveled through Pisces? And did you carry that lesson forward with you? Hercules was retrograding, so very intense. But here's some good news: Hercules is going to move. You see, Hercules is at 0 here. So that is intense energy, right? Very intense. And we know that Scorpio energy, um, Aries and Scorpio, they are quincunx energy. They're 100 and what is that, 150 away from each other. But so you see, we got Pallas Athena there. Pallas Athena at Scorpio at 0. The general, the feminine general at 0 degrees. And so is Humea. So those are quincunx to Hercules, who is now at 0. Okay. Hercules isn't especially fast. Hercules has been wavering around this 0 degrees since, I believe, the beginning of November. It got down near the 0 mark. So we're going to kind of see when does that move, right? Let's go look up top and see what we got here. We have on the 22nd, let's start there. The 22nd of the month, so 2 days. So this is like Wednesday. The sun goes into Saggy at 22 degrees. We got that. Then we have Mars. We already covered that. Mars is also going to be moving because it's at a critical degree. Mars will be on the 24th of November. Mars will be in Sagittarius. You see that? And then we have Hercules. Hercules, the very next day on the 25th, Hercules goes back into Pisces. So this, I think, is really good. Really, really good. I think this will be good for people who are fighting, people who are, you know, yeah, I think this can, how about this? It can be beneficial because we're going to get out of all that fight, fight, fight. And in my, I'm upset about my wounds because my wounds that had never healed got rehashed. Somebody threw salt in them. So whether it's in your private life, whether it's wherever it is you live, whatever region you're in or in country, these planets are all going to shift this week. Mars and the sun traveling and going into Sagittarius. All right. And then Hercules moving backwards, going to be in Pisces. This is good stuff. We got more things um, in water, but also in beliefs. And so that's where the challenge can be, because when we get more things in Saggy, it comes down to a clash possibly of religious beliefs. And if it's not religious beliefs, just philosophies on life, just what my belief is about a thing or a person or a place. Okay. The wonderful thing about Sagittarius is if we calm our minds, we can hopefully let Venus do her work. Okay. We can Saggy, belief and faith, Sagittarius. We got Mercury there. So this can be a time where we can get assistance from divine. Because remember, we also have the sun and Mars in Saggy, right? Now we go up here and we look at Venus. She starts this week off at 13 degrees. In 7 days' time, she'll end up at 18. She is starting to become close enough to be conjunct the South Node. The South Node is in Libra, still at 24, and it stays here for the rest of this month and pretty much through December. The South Node wavers and sits right 24, 23 degrees. Okay. The South Node does represent a release. So Venus may release a value, may release a partnership. If it's not a current value or a current partnership, when it has to do with the South Node, it's a partnership from the past. You see? So there might be something there that gets released that, even though it might not be a current partnership, like as in I'm in partnership with them right now. You know how sometimes you could be with somebody and then you break up and then some time goes by, you meet somebody else and you get into like a relationship with somebody and it's, it's everything's going well. And then all of a sudden, somebody from the past gives you a phone call, or you see them, or you hear something about them and their life, and it kind of brings up things about the past. in that relationship, and a value, Venus, a value that you held or that you once held. And so hopefully the thing here is that we are releasing some desires that are outdated, because that's Venus. It's all about the desire. Okay. I will also add that it could possibly be a big release for some folks, depending upon their own Venus and their own chart, depending upon other things in your chart. When Venus travels through, because Venus represents our love, right? It's the feminine. It's the feminine. So it can be like females literally in your life, or someone with strong feminine qualities, traits, and characteristics, but it's feminine energy. And when we talk about relationships, well, we think about marriage, but it can also just as strongly show up as business partnerships, business partnerships that no longer serve us. Okay. This could have to do with the lawyers, because it's the justice system and it's the law. You see, those are the scales of balance. That's Lady Justice. So there may be some old values by way of what we considered to be justice, right? Or what was presented as this is fair and balanced. Something is being released on the end of this week. So 7 days time, Venus will be at 18, right? So the conjunction, the really strong conjunction, won't happen until the following week, and we'll talk about that in next week's video. All right. One thing other that I wanted to mention before I close out on this video is there's a white moon Lilith situation going on, which can be beneficial. All right. We got white moon Lilith here. She has now entered Earth. And I like this because it's Earth at 0 degrees, white moon Lilith. All right. White moon Lilith has been in the earth sign, I'm sorry, in the fire signs. She was going direct in Aries all of October. All of October, white moon Lilith was in combative Aries energy, impatient Aries, or let's start things, let's initiate things, right? But the nice thing is that white moon Lilith is moon energy. So think feminine energy again. Think the past, think history, think what are we going to do? Because white moon can take on such a beautiful spiritual ideal for the public, even, and for people and home and family, the motherland and country. It's white moon Lilith in the peaceful sign of Taurus at 0 degrees. You see that? And so she's going to be traveling through Taurus for the rest of November. So this is really beautiful. She got here a few days ago. So she was here in when I did last week's video. I didn't mention it. But I mentioned it this week because we have some other things. We have Regulus, who does not move. Regulus is always going to be sitting at 0 degrees Regulus. I'm sorry, 0 degrees Virgo for a very long time. So this is a trine, a grand earth trine, grand earth trine. And that's beneficial when it's a trine because earth is stabilizing things. This is when we think of Virgo energy, we think of the details. We think of hygiene and cleanliness, especially if somebody is going where their homeland has been destroyed and bombarded and just blown up, and there's fighting going on, and we think of, my gosh, how do you get food? How do you get clean food? How do you stay clean? Right? Like there's a whole lot of ailments and disease that can come about. And so having a little bit of white moon step in and trine Regulus, I think is really, really beneficial, really still beneficial. And I want to also add here that Jupiter is at 8 degrees retrograding. You see Jupiter at 8 in Earth, A lot of strong stuff in Earth retrograding, right? And Jupiter at 8 means it's going to go back and it's getting near the 5-degree mark. And why does that matter? Because we have stuff still sitting at 5 degrees in Earth, in Virgo, 5, 12, and 15. You see that up there? 5, 12, and 15 in Virgo. There we go. We'll go green a little bit. And this energy, I think, again, is beneficial because it can help stabilize. It can help ground things. And when we are more stabilized and more grounded, we tend to be more calm, even though Virgo is all about the details. But this is the details with the things that are needed and necessary. This is food. This is the stomach. This is digestion. This is hygiene. and cleanliness and practicality. Like we think nurses, we think home healthcare aides, we think homeopathy and essential oils, right? And alternative modalities when we talk about Virgo energy. And so look at on this chart, there's lots of lots, Arabian lots. We've got some at 3, 4, and 5. And this can be beneficial because Jupiter is going to start creating that trine. And in Capricorn over here, look, what do we have in Cappy? In Capricorn, look, we have Cupido, which takes on a Venus energy. I know Venus keeps showing up. It's about harmony, big time on harmony. It is all about it wants peace, but it wants harmony. It wants to create some beauty for sure. It wants to do it in a very professional manner because it's in Capricorn. So it says somebody in charge with government can maybe be like, okay, enough of this already. Let's just like this is a mess. Let's get this taken care of. And we also have Hermes. These are conjunct. They're together, 5 and 6 degrees. So this creates the another grand earth trine. And I think during these times where things feel scary and unstable, and depending upon where you live, the words that I'm using might not nearly enough describe what you're going through. Um, I totally get that. I can't pretend that I understand. I've never had to physically be there and live through a war in this lifetime. I've never had to do that. Um, you know, so all I can do is say I offer up my prayers and my intentions and pray for peace. Like I know that's not doesn't seem like enough. I know. But at this time I think it's important to just not forget and to have hope that somehow all these all these jarring energies will somehow learn to use their words and communicate. And see, Mercury in Saggy is a communicator, and it can be an inspiring communicator. It can take on that religious tone, that spiritual tone in Sagittarius. So hopefully this we can find a way to somehow agree to disagree and agree that loss of life and destruction that there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a better way. So I hope this helps. If you got any questions, comment below. And just remember, folks, I appreciate your time. Always, always, always. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Take care.